Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Ask Princess. It seems like it's been forever since my last podcast. It's probably been since the winter. Through all this time, I've been, pretty busy with some different business ventures, trying to get some ideas off the ground and running. But through it all, I've been promising I would do another podcast. So here I am. Today's topic covers or will discuss consumers and their food choices. Are we overwhelmed by food choices, especially the American population? If you have TV, if you have radio, internet, you're overwhelmed by everything. Whether it's a fat, different in fad diets, this company versus this company, whether it's different legislation of what you can and can't purchase, or the amount you can consume in certain settings, etc. Or just just trying to figure out day to day what you should be putting in your grocery cart when you're shopping. Just because today you'll have a study that'll say XYZ is the best thing ever for you, and then you'll see a study like 3 days later. No, it's probably the worst thing for you, and vice versa. There's been a lot of studies where they said things are really bad for you. Come back a few days later, oh well, we have a study that says XYZ is the best thing ever as far as consumption. Food, especially within the last 3 or 4 years, maybe I may even push it back a little bit more, maybe the last 5 or 6 years, has been a very, very hot topic of importance. And in my, idea, in my estimation, I think food is going to be another hot topic at least for another 5 years, just because there are so many different trends, so many different studies, so many different revelations and ideas that are coming out. But even if you don't have the latest in technology, because there are still some people who do not trust the internet, they do not watch TV, and for whatever reason, they don't have a radio, they're still getting information via word of mouth. That's how much of a trending hot topic food is and food consumption is, that everyone is talking about food, from little kids to grandparents to the fitness trainer. Everyone is discussing food. You could pretty much turn to any magazine or any newspaper any day and find something in relation to food beyond like a coupon, beyond an advertisement. You will actually see like an actual article, an actual study. And this is pretty much on a daily basis, no matter where you live. So what I want to cover in this particular podcast, I'm not going to discuss like the different fads. I'm not going to discuss the different legislations. I'll hold those off for another podcast. What I want to discuss is the straight up consumer um, dilemma when they're trying to make purchases to feed their family, or they need to stop and get some quick lunch. See, this is pretty much what I want to deal with today. So just the kind of quick different topics, and they all kind of tie in together, but I broke them down a little bit. Soy, milk, organic, produce and meats, fat versus no fat, GMOs, dyes, processed foods, trying to eat healthy at the restaurant. Even though I'm not going to tackle the restaurant head on, I kind of feel that consumption at a restaurant fits into this perfectly. Things like seafood, sugar, just to name a few. And I could go on and on and on and on and on, because there's so many different revelations, so many different things that tie into this, but really don't have the time, and keep it to a minimum if possible. So let's go with seafood and soy. Now with seafood and soy, they are deemed to be great alternatives to eating traditional meat. Now, if you are vegetarian or pescatarian, you may venture into that seafood side. And if you're just a regular, carnivore, omnivore, you may eat seafood as well. Now, the issue that seafood has, everyone's like, you should eat seafood. It's very good for you. You get your omega 3s or your other omegas, which I believe is like 6, 9, and 12. You get all that from seafood. Seafood is very good. It's a good choice in place of meat. And then they tell you, um, maybe not. You have to be careful of the pollution. You have to be careful of the mercury. You have to be careful of this or that. Now, when it comes to seafood, seafood is a great alternative to people who are not trying to eat traditional meat, or for people who are leaning towards that vegetarian lifestyle, but they can't necessarily give up the flesh 100% yet. Pescatarians, they can eat seafood. What I will say in regards to that is just to be cautious of where you're getting your seafood. I believe every year, especially during the summer, because that's when a lot of people really consume seafood. This is the time that you pay attention. Are they finding a lot of mercury in specific types of fish? Are they finding mercury in shrimp? Are they finding mercury in crab? So I would pay attention, because that is important, because too much mercury consumption, too much other metal or pollution consumption could be very harmful. So in that regards, yes, they are right on the money. Seafood is a good alternative. It's a good choice. Just kind of pay attention to where you're getting your seafood from, and if any particular type of fish or such has been placed on a list of high pollutant consumption. And if it hasn't been, fish away. Get all the seafood that you want, and just be cautious. Now, soy is also a great alternative for those who are vegetarian, vegan, or trying to just give up eating too much traditional meat altogether. Now, soy, at one point was like the king of alternative. If you were going vegetarian or vegan, I mean, people automatically directed you to soy. And then boom, one day studies started coming out and saying soy may not be the way to go. It may influence hormonal changes, and it may also be harmful for women, or it may increase chances for women to come down or contract. Well, contract is not really the right word, but may heighten chances of women to be diagnosed with um, estrogen forms of breast cancer. Some breast cancers are high estrogen forms, and they say soy contributes to that. My response to that: anything in consumption is not good for you, especially if it can play around with the hormones. So if you like soy, if you are a vegetarian, or if you just like soy, if you just like tofu or whatever the case may be, keep it in moderation. Especially if you are a vegetarian, there are different alternatives. There's beans, there's quinoa, there's other filling foods that you can have. And then if you are not vegetarian, definitely keep soy to a minimum, because you definitely have a lot more choices when it comes to getting your fill. Speaking on soy, we can move into milk, because soy milk has been a popular choice, a popular alternative. When it comes to milk, milk has been a topic of discussion for many, many, many years. Initially, milk is great for you. It builds strong bones. It helps prevent osteoporosis. Um, then you, then it was like, no, we don't need milk, especially if it's cow's milk, because cow's milk is bad, and it's the cause of, a lot of people having lactose intolerance, and we don't need it, and blah, blah, blah. Now, there are a lot of milk alternatives now. So if you are a vegetarian, if you are a vegan, or if you are lactose intolerant, or if you're just trying to stay away from animal-derived milk, you have plenty of alternatives. You have coconut milk, almond, rice, soy, hemp. All, pretty good choices. All of them are pretty popular. They have different tastes, depending on the brand and what you get, but they all suit the purpose just fine. If you are into animal derived milk and want to try something different, there's always goat's milk or sheep's milk. With goat's milk, on the scientific side, they say that goat's milk is the closest milk to human breast milk when it comes to the molecular structure. So it makes it a lot more easier to digest than, say, cow's milk. Also, recently, there's actually been studies that said that milk in itself, it doesn't help with osteoporosis. There's also been different studies, or different debates about raw milk versus regular pasteurized milk. And I said I'm not going to go into legislation, which I'm not. But in some areas, to sell raw milk is actually against the law. And so you have like the foodies who are really into the holistic foodies who are really like raw milk is the way to go if you're going to do milk, and you have the government that says no, not so much. So right now that's a debate as well. Also, when it went to milk, there was also the debate about, especially when obesity really took off as being a topic of discussion, there was the debate about children drinking whole milk because of the fat content. And then you go back to the studies that says children need the fat, it helps develop the brain, blah, blah, blah. So doctors started recommending that children drink whole milk specifically from ages 1 to 3. That's where that whole trend of drinking whole milk at age 1 came in. But the doctors kind of, was like from 1 to 3. If they're going to drink milk, they need to drink whole milk. They don't need the 2%, the 1%, the skim. They need whole milk. And then after 3, they can kind of taper off to whatever you want them to. Now, the tapering off kind of came in once obesity became a big deal, because parents are like, I'm giving my child all this fat with this milk, and then they still like milk, and the milk is making them fat, blah, blah, blah. And then, so now it's starting to taper off to the 2%. Really, what it boils down to, when it comes to milk, children do need the fat for the brain development and growth. But if they're eating strong diets, that may be enough. So to me, that's something you really, really, really need to discuss with your doctor. And you really, really, if you're really not comfortable with giving them whole milk for that long, talk about different alternatives so that they can get the fat consumption. Now, speaking of fat, everyone knows, fat is like the Antichrist. Fat is bad, it's wrong. So you have the topic of no fat. But you actually need fat, because fat is good in children. Fat consumption does help develop the brain, but also fat within the body helps to insulate. It helps the body perform functions that are necessary for you to run like a smooth machine. So you do need fat. So eating things like frying foods and like vegetable oils, certain vegetable oils, or frying, having fried foods. Now that kind of stuff, that kind of fat is not good for you. Or if you have fatty pieces of, fatty pieces of meat, and you're eating the fat and all that dripping and stuff, that may not be good for you. But some fat consumption is good. You have healthy oils that you can cook with, like olive oil and coconut oil, that will give you the proper fats that you need. So that's something you can investigate. Fat is good in moderation. So then you have the topic of organic, antibiotic, hormone-free, and GMOs. And they all go together just because right now they're the topic of huge debate. Now, for me, GMOs, I can never promote it. I can never endorse it, because In the health community, we call it frankenfoods, because basically what they do is they'll take different species of, say, a similar food, or different species of similar plants, and they'll pull all the traits that they want out and they'll put it together. For me, I'm all about natural pollination, or accidental occurrence. Over the years, if you have a food that just sprouted up because of pollination, cool. I'm not really into foods that are genetically made in the lab. And with GMO foods, there really hasn't been any good studies on that. So when you hear GMOs are bad, yeah, you can almost 100% go with that. Just because there are no real clear studies that say GMOs are beneficial. Most of the studies kind of point the other way. Now, granted, a lot of those studies, may come from groups who are very anti-GMO. So you do need to do your research as far as who's putting out the study, and if they're a biased group with an agenda, or if they're pretty much an unbiased group that's just taking the data in and giving you the results. Now, when it comes to organic, and I did actually did a podcast on organic before, so we're not going to go too much into it. But organic produce, antibiotic free, hormone free. Now, the argument with that is it's so expensive, and in certain areas it can be very expensive. With my clients, what I usually do is I promote eating just fruits and vegetables and lean meats in general first, because I tend to work with a lot of clients who are either on a budget, or they're lower income, and they can't necessarily just afford to go buy this organic stuff. And also, they can't necessarily afford to buy this organic stuff and throw it away. Because if you have a family, or if you are a consumer and you don't typically eat fruits and vegetables, when you first buy them, you're not going to necessarily eat them all up the first couple of times. There is a potential of waste. So it is a lot cheaper to throw away $2 worth of food versus $5 worth of food. So my initial goal when it comes to organic products is I just try to get my client to incorporate more fruits and vegetables in general first. Lean meats first. And then once they get used to the taste, or get used to, specific fruits, vegetables, or cuts of meat that they really like, then we can graduate. We can graduate up to organic. There are a lot of studies, that confuse people, because with the studies you have, some people say, organic is 100% better, it's more nutrient rich, it's healthier, blah blah blah. And then you have a lot of studies that say eating organic foods prove to be no more nutrient rich than traditional foods. So that's where the confusion comes in. But pretty much when it comes to organic, it pretty much says that there's no pesticides or any harsh chemicals used to fertilize this plant, or foods are given to this animal. Just to kind of sum it up. It's a little more involved than that, but just to kind of sum it up. When it comes to like the meat, like I said, the animal has eaten organic food. They have not given this animal any antibiotic or any hormones to increase growth or productivity. Pretty much letting the animal grow on its own, do what it needs to do. So to me, when it comes to organic, if you can afford it right off and that's what you want to do, go for it. But if you're trying to work things into your diet, work in the produce, work in leaner cuts of meat, because leaner cuts of meat can have a different taste than the fatty stuff. So you're working in your leaner cuts of meat to get used to the taste, get used to purchasing it, get used to eating it. Then you can graduate up to organic. Now, I will say when it comes to organic meat, especially like chicken. Now, I'm not plugging anyone or endorsing, but this is where I happen to find it, where a lot of people shop. At Walmart, sells a company, not sure of the name right now, but Walmart sells a company that, or Yes, So's a company that sells organic chicken, and the chicken is very, competitive in price. It's very affordable. Whereas, mainstream competitors that we know of that are now selling organic is a little more pricey. But if you can find, a brand that's organic at your local grocery store, Walmart, go for it. Now we have dyes and processed food. Dyes are pretty much in everything that you consume unless your food is natural, such as like fruits, vegetables, um, maybe even some meat. So it's tricky because you try to avoid it, you want to avoid it, you need to avoid it. My suggestion is eat fresh, whole, fresh produce when you can. Um, and try to purchase foods that are dye free. If you have a favorite drink, if they have a dye free version, go for it. Dyes like Red 40 have been linked to ADHD, ADD. Red 40 has been linked to allergies. Now they're starting to link certain yellow dyes like yellow 5 to um, cancer or different focus disorders within children. So there's a lot of stuff going on with these dyes. Also, if you didn't know, a lot of dyes are also made by animal products. So if you are a vegetarian, if you are a vegan, if you are on some type of religious restriction, you need to be cautious of the dyes as well, because you could be crossing your boundaries and not even realizing that's the case. But dye is pretty much in everything, but try to go dye free when possible. Processed foods, everything is processed that you purchase from the store unless it is meat, fruit, vegetable, or it comes from, you know, some type of animal like eggs or something like that, or milk. When it comes to processed food, I mean everything: potato chips, French fries, cookies, cake mix, everything you can think of. Even certain things that you think may be healthy, like certain pastas. If it's white pasta and not whole grain of wheat, it's processed. It has gone through a processing regimen. And so, when you process food, processing takes out the nutrients. So, you kind of want to weigh those options. If you have the extra dollar or two, go with the whole wheat. Um, you know, try to skip the processed stuff as much as possible. Fast food. Everything fast food is convenient, but 9 times out of 10 is processed. Now, to tie that in with eating salads, at the fast food restaurant, some people say, well, I know everything is processed, but I'm just going to get a salad. 9 times out of 10, that salad has more calorie consumption than if you ate the burger and the fries. Just because by the time they add the meat, they add, say, maybe the sweet stuff or the nuts or the salad dressing. Sometimes you'll be amazed to find that your salad is actually more calorie consuming than your burger, but it may not be as filling. So that's something you kind of need to evaluate. So if you have time, you may actually want to run into maybe your local um, grocery store and hit up their salad bar if need be, if you need to get a quick salad, because in that way you can put as much fresh vegetables. You can kind of doctor it up to where it's more filling, even if the calories are the same. And last but not least, our good friend sugar. Even from the days of the 80s, when you had like the NutraSweet and the Sweet and Lows and the Equals, people were starting to say, sugar is not the way to go. My take is regular sugar will beat the fake chemical processed sugar any day. And that's mainly because your body knows it is sugar. It knows what to do with it. With the chemical processed sugar, your body doesn't know what that is. It's like it treats it like poison. Um, and you may actually gain weight while your body's trying to figure out how to digest it and metabolize it and get rid of it. One time I was in a store, and you fill out like this little survey card, and it was a soda vendor, and they were giving out soda, after you fill out this card, and they actually said, do not take the diet soda because I don't like diet soda anyway, so that wasn't a problem. But they were like, do not take the diet soda because the diet soda is actually harmful. Things like aspartame. Now, things like certain yogurts, diet drinks all have aspartame. Aspartame has been linked to cancer. It's considered to be poisonous. Almost everyone can agree that aspartame is not the way to go. It's been linked to migraines, etc. But then they tell you, try things like agave, try things like honey. Now they're going back and saying agave is not healthy for you, especially if you're a diabetic, because it can spike your blood sugar, or it can do all these kind of different things if it's not pure. Then they tell you use pure maple syrup and blah blah blah. Honey. Now they're saying that honey is not honey if it doesn't meet a certain criteria. Like they're actually getting the honey from the hive, but then by the time they process it and pull it out, if it doesn't maintain a certain amount of component, then it's not actual honey. So when it comes to this whole sugar thing, it's really confusing. So some choices are, you can get raw organic honey from local beekeeper or maybe your farmer's market. Agave is natural, so I would say you can enjoy it in moderation. Same thing with like maple syrup. It is healthy, moderation. If you're doing natural maple syrup. Real sugar. I prefer real sugar, over fake sugar any day. Just keep it in moderation. That does not mean you can drink a whole 2-liter soda because it's a real soda with real sugar. No. But if you had to pick between something diet or regular, for me, regular is better because your body can recognize the sugar. I'm not encouraging you to drink a soda, but I'm just saying, if you did, if you in a restaurant and you had to pick between putting sugar in something versus one of the artificial sweeteners, sugar. Anytime you can get the natural, real product, it is way better than having the chemical, artificial, processed stuff. The key is moderation. Moderation. Sugar is a natural component. It's natural. You grow it from the sugar cane. It's natural. Your body knows what to do with it. The stuff that they're making in the lab, like the aspartame, your body has no idea what it is, and it does not know how to handle it. So real is always better. So pretty much a quick recap. Everything for you can be okay in moderation. So that would be sugar, soy, fats. Watch out for dyes, processed foods. Milk is something that you can kind of talk over with your doctor. If you prefer to go animal-free milk, there's plenty of alternative and choices that are just as good, give you the same nutrient content, probably fewer calories, and taste just as good. When it comes to buying organic produce and meat, if you have the money to do it right away, go for it. But also, initially, if you're not a big fruit and vegetable eater, try to get that in your diet first and then progress up to organic. And with salads, if you are going to get a salad, you probably are better off making it on your own because it'll be hearty, it'll be healthy, and the calories won't be as much. So hopefully I was able to clear some of that up for you. Thank you for joining me. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Ask Princess, which is ask_princess, or you can follow me on Facebook at ask_princess. And I look forward to seeing you there. Questions or comments, feel free to tweet or message me on Facebook. Thanks. Bye.